What a week. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are on lesson three, week three of the Zero to Hero program. Today we'll be looking at the Portal Studio. Actually, the prereq for the lesson was Portal Studio, but I want to dive more into strategies for CMS customization of portals using all three methods that I use. So we're going to be looking at Portal Studio primarily, and then I'm going to point out some of the operations that we complete in Portal Studio, how those can also be completed in the back end. So forgive me if I go a little more technical today, but I think it will be necessary. All right. Before we start, I was trying to get some names here, and I wanted to recognize some of the efforts that the participants have put this past week in applying the knowledge they acquired. Big shout out to Mary Thompson. She posted some questions in the chat. I communicated with another guy, and forgive me, I forgot your name, but I think you wrote from Denmark, and you were talking about a custom Power Automate that you created to invite your customers to your portal. So I'll I'll remember your name eventually, but I wanted to recognize you and forgive me for not having stored your name in my mind. But big shout out to you. I'll recognize you on the next email that goes out. But yeah, great work. I got a chance to see what you were doing, looking at step by step information that you provided, and it's great work. You can comment here if you know who I'm talking about, and also if you authorize me, I would love to share information that you provided with the community. So let me know if I am allowed to do that. There was another guy.
You can share it actually. I don't have the chat here, but it's sure you can share it. It's quite nice, and I think it's quite helpful for everyone who's working with portals. So that's good.
Yeah, I've used it out of the box setup, but it doesn't work super well with B2C. It works to some extent, but it's kind of a mess. But yeah, so I'll authorize your message. Probably put it on the marketing mail that we send out. So yeah, big kudos to you. There was one other person from Paris, I believe, that sent a note with questions on entity permissions. Forgive me, I haven't been able to reply to you yet, but I want to acknowledge that I got the email, and hopefully this week will or this weekend will be a little better for me, and I'll be able to provide some information there also. All right, I think that's all the recognition we have for today. Okay, so three heroes of the week: Gelt, Mary, and the Paris guys. So I'll remember your name. Sorry about that. All right, so we'll be looking at Power Apps Portal Studio here today. Um, First and foremost, I wanted to highlight that Portal Studio is essentially for makers, all right? People who are building portals. They are not, this is not designed for, you know, like a marketing team in your company that's going to be creating pages and whatnot. This is not the intent. There is a lot of conversation, a lot of chatted on how we could resolve or provide tools for marketing folks to be able to create pages or edit pages using a similar experience to Studio, but there is none. Well, in the same format as Studio, there is another way to do it, and we'll be looking at that as well. But yeah, it's a take from Microsoft is pretty much giving a shot in trying to replicate the same experience that we have with Power Apps. The designer, the Canvas app designer, they are trying to do the same thing with portals. I find that there's a lot of functionality here that's it's nice and it kind of eliminates a lot of back and forth between front end, back end, and refreshing the cache and whatnot. But there is a lot of stuff that doesn't work as well as I would have hoped for. We've been talking about this particular features that don't perform so well in the last two videos. I think I touched that one of it that I personally dislike, to not say hate, is the autosave. I think autosave is pretty bad. It's misleading. You never know when it's really saved, but it is a shot that they are giving, and through feedback from the community, they have already made it a lot better. Not perfect. There's still a lot of bugs, but they're working on it. But it's one of the features that I personally dislike. All right. One other that might be tricky for you is how you drag and drop components into your page. And I think Mary pointed out on her questions, how hard it is to land your controls in the right place, and sometimes you put it in a place, and then when you preview it doesn't look as nice. So what I hope for in today's lesson and next lesson is to provide you ways to kind of rearrange the page when you find yourself into that particular trouble. Okay, if you drag a field or a component to the page, and now you want it to be centered, but it's not centered, it's going to the left, so on and so forth. We'll look into ways that you can learn a little bit of HTML and CSS and make things better. All right. Okay, Portal Studio. So let's have a look at components of Portal Studio. All right, at the top here, you have one. The top bar is called the command bar, and it may vary depending on where you are, which components you are dealing with. So you're gonna get some dynamic interaction there depending on what you're doing. To the right, you have sync configuration and browse website. Sync configuration is a bit mysterious, and Microsoft may add things as they go, but I find that it's not a full cache refresh if you do it from here, but it seems to bring some of the site settings and content snippets from the backend if you create it through the backend. So all in all, to say, if you have something that you've done here or you've done in the backend, it's not here yet, hit the sync configuration, and most likely it will show up. Okay. Browse the site. Needless to talk too much about it, but you click on it, and then you're gonna get a new tab on the page that you're editing or playing with. Okay. All right. To the right, item 2. What you got there is a tool belt. You can click to view pages. You can access templates, and that's mainly the web templates that we looked a little bit last week, and we'll look some more moving forward with the training. You can play with the CSS as well. You can open the CSS files. You can use a new feature of portals, well, relative new feature of portals, which is called the pre-built CSS, if you will, the pre-built template. So Microsoft has built about 5 pre-packaged templates, or CSS templates, if I would call it that way, where you can select if you want to change your site to look more like greenish, or have more red, or be black in background, so on and so forth. And we'll look at that shortly here. And then you have other components, and as we go, we'll explore some more. 3 is the canvas. This is the area that you play with. And again, this may vary. If you're playing with a page, you see a page. If you're looking at a CSS file, you'd see the CSS contents of that file on the canvas. You have 4, which is the footer. In the footer, you have this little HTML symbol here to the right, and you can click on it. If you're playing with a page, you can click on it, and you'd be able to see the contents of your page. Of course, all that we see here is the HTML area that we are allowed to change, okay? So if you're using a web template that has a header and an image there, you wouldn't be able to change that part of the page by clicking here, all right? 5, property page. Again, this may vary depending on which component you have highlighted. If you have the whole page highlighted, you'd see properties of the page. If you are adding an entity list to your page, then the contents of properties would change there. So it's dynamic. All right, so let's dive in and let's explore a little bit of Portal Studio. All right, I already have my studio open here. The way to get there is you go to apps, you go to your Portals app, click the ellipses here. Come on. Why is it not showing more commands? Oh, lovely. I know it will expire in 16 days. All right, good. Well, so you can click edit and then it will bring you here. So again, top to bottom, if I click sync, synchronize all the latest configuration done through the backend model-driven app. Again, site settings, if you refer to any here, then content snippets, so on and so forth. That's what it synchronizes. Browse web, it will pop open another tab to access the site. I'm not sure why. Okay, that's probably why. Well, come on. All right, so that did it. Then to the right, I have a way to navigate to a page that I have previously created. This is really good because you can, go back and forth between pages. Whereas if we when we look at the legacy front editor, you have to navigate to the page to change that particular page. And sometimes you create pages and you don't know what they look like. You don't know the name of the page. So this is a good thing here for the studio. So this is really, really good. Going below here, the components area, you can create different layouts. So this essentially, if you know HTML, you are creating divs essentially on the section layout, and for portal components, you would refer to these other controls. So you have a text area, which is essentially just HTML, image. This does a little bit more than just add an image to the site. It's creating a notes record in the portal and then storing the contents of the image there. You can always add a new image if you use this particular experience. An iframe, I'm sure you know what this is. I do that. Let me go back. Okay, so going back. Sorry. Then you have forms, which is entity form in the backend, list, which is entity list, breadcrumb component, and then Power BI. There is one feature in the pipeline for the next release, not necessarily Wave 1 2021. It was already announced since 2020 Wave 2, which is to do PVA from here. So instead of going to the backend and adding iframes to the page, you'll be able to use PVA on this particular user experience. So going down, you have themes in here. In themes, you can refer to your CSS file, okay? And I don't want to click on it yet, because as soon as I click, I won't be able to come back to this page easily. Um, but you can play with your CSS, and then you have this feature called enable basic theme. So if I enable that, hopefully it doesn't take too long. Now I can click and select which theme I want to apply to my site. Now in the backend, what happens is Microsoft will add another CSS to the pile. Okay, it would show up. You see, there is already one portal basic theme. When I select a particular theme, then it will take the CSS that's already pre-built and override the contents here. Now you can still apply your own CSS files on top of whatever Microsoft puts on. Okay. One thing that they mention in their file is they ask for is that you don't make changes directly on their file. There's nothing that prevents you from doing so, but they don't want you to do that. All right. So let's click on their CSS file and see what it looks like. You see, they put a disclaimer here: code generated by Microsoft, changes to this file are not supported. So essentially, you can still do it, but it could mean trouble for you down the line. All right. Did anybody send me a note on Teams? I guess not. All right. Okay. So we can still do it. All right. Let's keep on going here. Templates. So templates are web templates. You know, the one, the area that you can add HTML, CSS, liquid. So if I click in one of the templates, you see some of the code that I have created in the backend. And I can go ahead and make changes to my template here and save, and that would work here in the front end. Now, it's hard to play with templates in this context. Reason being is because if you think about a page composition, you have, in a page, you have the whole master page, if you were to be able to access the backend, and then you have a web template that you start to render some of the components. So there is a superset of a page, as we see here, that's untouchable, meaning that Microsoft is adding JavaScript, CSS references that we don't have access to. And then within that framework, you have a web template. On the web template, you can put images, you can put a second header, you can put a left bar or a right bar, you can play with things that way. And then in the inner core of that web template, you have your page. So where you essentially put your contents in, right? So if we are playing with Studio and we are saying, well, I want to make a change to the template, it's fine, you have access to do it, but you have no visibility on how this template look like after you make the change, unless you reload the page on another browser tab. Okay, so you can still play with templates again, you can make changes, you can move things around, but you only be able to visually see those changes when you render your page, either through Studio or through navigation to the page itself. So what I mean by that is I'm going to leave this open for a second and drag it over here. Go back to the home page. This home page uses the default Studio template. You see it here? I can navigate on the other tab to default Studio template, click to open, and it's a very simple template. All right, it's a little bit out of whack. All right, I have page content here, and I have a note here called "This is another sample." So if I go to my page, I should see this is another task. Sorry, not sample. This isn't. Anyhow, it's there somewhere. All right. So let's say that I want to add a navigation bar, and it should be displayed before this content here, before this image, right? I can go back to my template and add a div class, and I'll call it well, just to have visual there, and I can say my HTML content that should be displayed on every page that uses this. So here now I can put some HTML just to prove a point. Save. My template saved. So this should come before the contents of my page copy field is displayed. All right. So if this worked, you'd see. All right. So if I create another page using the same default studio template, now this particular content here will be displayed all the time. So let's say that one of the requirements that you have is, look, you need to put an area on the site that every time there is an alert in the company, we want to create an entity in the backend, and when the user flags a record as active, that message on the record should be displayed here as an alert, right? I'm a lazy guy, and I don't want to remember out of memory. I don't want to remind myself how to create a particular Bootstrap component that is called alert. So I'm gonna go to Bootswatch and find that alert component or HTML item. So I can go to preview any of these templates, scroll down, and I know that there is an alert message here somewhere, this guy. So now I can copy the contents of this alert, go back to my web template, and throw this in here. Maybe I should do a container area. Bad has happened. Go ahead and save. Refresh the page. Now, voila, I have my alert. Users, if they want, they can click to close it. If I refresh again, it's gonna come back up again. So I hope you get the idea. You have, again, in the structure of a page as it's displayed, you have a lot of stuff being pushed to the browser that we cannot change, okay? References to jQuery, references to Bootstrap, so on and so forth. Then you have the web template that this page is part of or associated with, and then you have the contents of the page. This little reference that you see here as page copy, it's a field in the web page, and it's what's storing all of this. Hold on. Select the page. All of this HTML content. All right. Any questions so far? So you see here, Power Apps, 0 to hero, and then you have other things going on here, okay? One other thing that's really cool about Studio that we can play with is the web template for navigation itself. So if I click here in this area of the header, I can click on the code, and as you can see, this is all the HTML mixed with liquid for your header. So if you want to venture out and play with it, you are allowed to do that as well and try to make changes. This is also a web template in the backend. All right, we can always navigate to that particular web template and make changes to it. All right, so moving on, if I go to the page and I sign in as an admin, a portal admin, I still have access to make some of the changes that I made in Studio, but now this particular experience would allow us to um, set up users to only do CMS work. All right, so right here, there is no way for me to make changes um, to the sorry to the link in HTML that renders the menu, much like I showed here that we could do, right? If I click on the menu, I can make changes to liquid, I can make changes to all sorts of things. But through the front end, I cannot make those changes. I cannot make changes to, I can add items to my menu, okay? But I cannot change the logic used to render this navigation menu bar, all right? I can change the content of the page right here. Click to change it, the HTML of the page, but I cannot change the web template that's doing this part. So essentially, we can set up contact users in portals and say, look, marketing guy or marketing team, you can log in with this particular credentials and you can make changes to content. You can, correct text. If you have more information, you can go ahead and add it through this particular experience, but then it protects the maker from having somebody that doesn't have the knowledge to do it. Prevent them from messing up the structure of the site. All right. Any questions so far? No? All right. Moving on. And again, I think we touched some of the backend changes last week, but I'll give us a little refresher. So if I go to portal management, the portal management app, the changes that a CMS manager would be able to do, changes to the copy field of a page, can also be accomplished through the portal management app. So I can click web pages, can find my web page. So I'm gonna search home. Then I can go to localize content. And when it loads, I'm able to see the HTML and make changes to it. All right. So the experience here is not super nice. It doesn't understand some of the references that we have put in place. So for example, this page is referencing the root directory of, sorry, this image or this div, sorry, is referencing an image that is in the root directory of the website. But because I am in Dynamics, it doesn't have a way to resolve that particular reference. That's why when we look at the designer, it doesn't show the image. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just that it can resolve it in this control. So, but you can still make changes here and, save the changes, refresh the cache, and they would show up in your portal. So again, Studio will give you the full enchilada, if you will. You can make changes in anything, almost anything, everywhere on the site, or anything that we are allowed to make changes to as a developer. Uh, Front face editing, it would be mostly for your CMS or delegated user that you want to make changes to the content. Um, I do use this experience a lot of times, so just thought I would share that. And then the back end, so you can choose between one of the three to get to where you want. So um, we still have about 10 minutes in the call, which is great. What I want to do now is I want to prepare the groundwork or prepare us for what's coming up next week. All right, next week it's gonna be full hands-on experience on branding. So what I would like you to spend some time on, if you have time this weekend or next week even, is try to play with the create a new page experience. Okay, using either blank or landing. I'd say blank's probably best option for what we are gonna do. And what the exercise we're gonna do is, so creating a blank page, then I'm gonna refer to Bootswatch for some components, and we'll try to mimic an UI experience using pre-built um, Bootstrap controls. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go back to Studio, create a page. So this is my branding exercise. Come on. I'm going to refer to Bootswatch, and in here I want to play with some of the controls. So I'm gonna pick one control, this list group, go back to my page. I can dive into the source code editor, and then within the div I can throw my example here and save. So it's now saved, and I have my list group in place here. So I can browse. Come on. And I'll see my list group. So we're gonna play with some of these components and Bootstrap in general. It's gonna be somewhat of a crash course on Bootstrap. I know many of you know, but some of you don't know how to use Bootstrap. So essentially, as we prepare for the next lesson, Bootstrap, it's a HTML CMS framework that it's prepackaged and prepared for responsive capabilities, meaning whatever you design for a web page would render nicely on a mobile application. At the core of Bootstrap, you have, I'd say, two main classes for your div. So you have what's known as a container div or class. And what the container does is it will make sure that the contents inside that class will render within this block of the page, like the center block of your page. All right. You have another class. Okay. Oh, did I lose that? Dang it. You have another class similar to container called container fluid. And container fluid will pretty much take the whole width of the page or the device that you're using. So this may not work on this example. Yeah, so it's fluid. Did you see how the session went all the way across here? The one that I just called container fluid. Okay, So whenever you want to have a full page experience, that's what you use, okay? Then, besides those classes, you start playing with the column classes, all right? Column classes will allow you to set up a good design in a way, will allow you to set up your page in blocks and chunks in a way that if you're dealing with less space, looking at a page in a mobile app or a tablet, your page will format. So some of the classes, the divs that are on the right side will go underneath, and everything will look nice when you render on a mobile website. The way these column classes work is you can set up a column and you can say, I want my page to have one division for column that takes 12 large positions, okay? So, and then you can play with, you can have a scenario where you do 4, and you have 3 and 1, that's 7, and then for another one, you have 5 positions. So if you want them all to display in one row of the page, if you will, the sum of your classes have to total 12. If you have anything past 12, the section will go underneath. You go to another page or another row, okay? So in our example here, down below, you have a container, then you have MD for medium, 12, and we may or may not talk about large versus MD versus small versus extra small at some point. I can't spend much time there, but let's stick with large and MD, all right? So within this 12, I have my component, but let's say that in my design, I want to do a sidebar of 12 or of 4, sorry, and then the remainder 8 positions I want to reserve it for a form, okay? So I'm gonna rename this MD12 from MD12 to MD4, and then I can create another div down below with the other 8 positions. As 8 positions, then I'm gonna clear this guy out, save. Now I have my menu bar on the side, and I have an area for the form to go. Oh, why the heck it didn't save? You see? Lovely. I thought it saved because it's doing what I want it to do. The autosave from hell just kicked in. You gotta love it. So you see, I have a box, I have my other container here, so I can throw another class here, call it well, just to color code the area so you can visually see the reserved area that we have in place. Then now I can build my forms, do some navigation, so on and so forth. Okay. Now the same experience can be accomplished with these controls, right? So I can go back to components and say I want a 3-column section.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Come on. Yeah. So it added 3 columns. Okay. I can click here, click on the source code, scroll down, and as you can see, I have 3 columns with 4 positions on each of them, and then I can play with the HTML. So you can accomplish the same. Now there is no, sidebar bootstrap component here, right? You have 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, but you can start with the studio designer and then play with things as you wish. So you can say, I want 2 columns on this guy, and I want 5 and 5 on the other two. Save. And then you see now my column to the left is smaller than the other ones. All right. So reason why I'm overemphasizing the HTML part of it is because a lot of times you're gonna drag things over and it's not gonna look nice, and you want to make adjustments. So I would like you guys to have this knowledge as well. All right. Okay. Well, that's all I've got for the day today. I want to open the mic for questions. If anybody has questions, we can take them up. Take them up now. Mary said she's not going to be on the call today. What is the CSS order for rendering? So it's going to be always the latest uploaded CSS. Out of the box, you have this two CSS files inputted. You have Bootstrap is always the lowest, so the first to load. The theme loads after. Then if you use the Portal Basic from Microsoft, you're gonna get that one loaded, and then if you create one after that, the last one will be yours. So I always take this approach of having my own as a granular CSS. So as you can see, I have very little CSS on this one. In fact, it's all commented out. But I take this approach of using my own as the last one to load in the end. Let's see. We cannot do PCF controls yet. It was announced a few days ago that it would be part of the release, so it's coming up. And when PCF is out, it's gonna be a great enhancement to portals. You know, we'll be able to leverage a lot of the skill set that a lot of us have been investing lately. So it'll be great. But it is in the pipeline. It is in the works, and it's coming up soon. Is there ability to add your own templates to the picker? I'm assuming you mean templates, web templates, Scott. If so, yes, a lot of these guys are my own. Those are custom templates that I built. If you mean web templates, yes, yours will show up here. If you mean themes, no, those are all Microsoft's. You can upload your CSS, however, though, but you cannot have presets added to this list. Okay, I'm not sure what this custom is. I should probably investigate this guy. Get started by creating a new theme or copy. Oh, never mind. Yes, you can create your own theme, and then it'll be listed here in custom. I did not see that when they were previewing basic theme, so my bad there. Can we do a hands-on without Dynamics 365 app? Yes, you can have a vanilla portal without Dynamics 365 apps. In fact, the first lesson we did here, we talked about community plans. So if you have a community plan, you won't have Dynamics apps installed, and you can still do portal from blank. Yes. Is it possible to attach a file in an entity form that has an attachment column directly from the portal? Not. I think what you mean, Thiago, is the file type on the entity. If so, that particular file type is not yet available in portals. There are two field types that we cannot leverage in portals as of today, and one is multi-option set. The other one is the image type. So we can't leverage that yet in portals. You can still upload an attachment through entity forms, but it's going to save that as a notes record associated to the record itself. So it's a little bit of a hack in terms of the user experience. I suppose you could do something like use the portal experience that saves the attachment as a notes record And then you could have a Power Automate that takes that notes record and converts into your image column content. So you could do it that way. Try to add a form to the portal, but the section where I have the attachment column doesn't display. Yeah, it doesn't work. You can enable a portal from any data version environment with a database. Yeah, regardless of apps installed. So thanks, Javier, for answering those questions. I should probably just be muted and let Javier take care of the business here. No, I'm joking. Thanks for answering those questions. Yeah. So that's all I have for today, folks. If you have any additional questions, we can stay a little longer in the call. If not, we can all go back to our duties.
Hello, Victor.
Oh, somebody's raising a hand here.
Yes,
Mark.
that's me, Victor.
Go for it.
I still don't have access to the chat window.
Oh, I add you as an admin to both the events and Teams, so I'm not sure what's going on. I'll connect with you after the call for us to get this sorted out. But go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do actually. Regarding the images, what happens to them when you add them through the studio? In which entity do they go to? And can you reuse them in other pages?
Yes. So the way that they are referenced in the HTML, it pretends to be a file reference, right? And we know that that's not really true, but it looks like a file reference, as you can see here. See /power hero, okay? But the way that it's stored in the backend is if you go to web files, and you have Power Hero, maybe this one. That's the name. That's where it's located. It turns up. Oh, sorry, Mark. Let me share my screen. All right, so I navigated to. So I found out the name of the file that I use. So it's called powerhero.png. Okay. Then I went to the model-driven app. You go to web files. Then you can click here. And you can go to notes. And here you'd see the file itself. Okay. Now, if you wanted to reuse it on portals, you can do it. If you go to Studio, and then say that you want to add an image down below here, you can go to Components, Image. It throws the image block there. Then you can select from existing Power Hero, and that's the same image. One thing that sucks, and I never got a chance to try, but it was really bad on the previous experience of portals when you had an existing image and you wanted to replace. So you had to go to either the editing console here, navigate to the areas where images are stored, remove the existing and upload a new one. I have to test it on Studio if it allows me to override an existing image, because that happens sometimes. You don't want to change, so you want to change an existing image so that everywhere that it's referenced, it just picks up the new value. So I should test it at some point. But yeah, you can reuse images. Okay. No problem. I think there is another question. Somebody raised hand. Ricardo Casaka, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, Ricardo.
Hello. Well, first a comment. I'm not also able to see the chat or put questions of it. So if you can help on that, I would appreciate also. And my question is, Is it possible to use or reference, for instance, material design or to a more recent version of Bootstrap in the portals?
No, the portal is running on Bootstrap 3.4 something. So you're pretty much locked with that. You could, however, for some components, you could add a reference that's more granular to that div component and bring, Bootstrap 4, and that would work. The problem with replacing it altogether with 4 is that a lot of the internal components for portals, entity forms, entity lists, they're bound to Bootstrap 3, so you lose a little bit of problems there.
Okay, and sorry, just one last question. In terms of the layout about the menu, is it possible to use an approach like an admin template, so to have the menu on the left side? Yeah.
Yes, you can do that. I have an example that I did. I think a showcase last week that's doing something similar to like a admin site. So let's log on here. Come on, page is loading, so sorry about that. All right, here. So yeah, so you see it's going across and it's using a lot of the real estate on the page. So you can do it. I mean, you can import another Bootstrap pre-built template and see what you have to do to fix it, the changes. But you're gonna have a lot less trouble if you use version up to 3.4.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
All right. Mary said that if you're having issues with seeing the channel and whatnot, when you log into Teams, to switch to the Powerthon team org. You know how when you log in, your profile may be associated with different orgs, like this here, for example. You still have the same login, but it may be on your own tenant, if you will. If you switch to Powerthon, she says you'll be able to see the chat. So Mark and Ricardo, as we complete the call, if you want to stay for a little bit, you can try to switch and see if you can view the chat. Got a question from Scott here on accordion. I think it does work. Portal reference both Bootstrap CSS and JS. So a lot of the Bootstrap functionality, like the model pop-ups and whatnot, those work as well. All right, I will stop the recording, and whomever is having trouble logging in, you are welcome to stay so we can figure it out.